What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the After Effect podcast. I'm your host, LeBron Stephen, but you can call me LBZ, L Boogie, Big Brian, B Ron, LB, Barani, whatever you choose. Welcome to episode 56. We have a very special guest. Clarence Bumpass is on the show today. Colorado Springs, Colorado native. Was a football star in that area coming out of high school. First attended Kansas State as a top linebacker. After 2 seasons there, he transferred to Northern Colorado, where he finished his career and was an all-league player and honorable mention All-American player. From there, he played a few years of arena football, actually where we met in 2016. And now, currently, he is a mental health counseling student going for his master's in mental health counseling. We have a future therapist, former athlete, uber excited to have Clarence on the show to talk about his football career, to talk about the ups and downs of his football career, to talk about his after effect of his career, and more importantly, why he chose to get in the mental health field as a former athlete. I'm telling you right now, this is going to be a powerful episode. So I just sent him the link, and once he jumps on, we will go.
A guy who came from Cleveland.
Okay, well, you ain't from Cleveland, though.
Cleveland was the best location in the nation.
You know, we from Cleveland, Ohio.
Glenville community on the east side of Cleveland.
Cleveland was called the best location in the nation.
My brother.
Yo, there you go.
What's good with you, bro? Can you hear me?
How you living? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you, bro. It's good to see you, bro. Yeah, I can hear you. It's good to see you, man.
It's a pleasure, family. You look good, man. You look good.
Yes, sir. You too, man. Hey, I appreciate you joining.
No doubt. You'll have to pardon me. I still got my directions and whatnot going. Got to go meet a quick little client pickup. So, I mean, I beg your pardon in advance.
Oh, okay. Hey, we gonna make it work, man. No doubt. So yeah, bro, this is called the After Effects Show. I started it because I feel like as athletes, we all have an after effect, an after shock from our entire football career, from the wins and the losses and the injuries and the racism and the nepotism, all the different things that we go through as athletes. It's a 20+ year relationship. When that's all over, we all have an after effect from all those experiences. And this is a free and safe space for us to just kind of relive that journey, talk about some good times, some bad times, but more importantly, just talk about ways that we can push the culture forward. I think you are a perfect exhibition of that because you're in the mental health field, man. So I'm super excited about this conversation.
Righteous, as am I, family. I'm glad you put it together, man. I mean, somebody had to do it. You're right.
Somebody had to do
it. Who better than you, right? And I'm actually glad. I've been watching you for a minute. You know what I mean? I'm delighted that you would actually, pass this opportunity this way. So I'm honored, family.
Of course. You already know, man. So I've always felt like we were more than athletes. So before we just dive into everything, your childhood and everything like that, let me just get your opinion on just a couple current events, man. So obviously we just entered May, so we're almost at a half a year in 2021, but we're both still here from 2020, right? 2020 was the weirdest year to date. Since we've been on this planet, we have never ever walked through a coronavirus pandemic. The world has never shut down. So we had to kind of move and change and adapt in so many different ways. How did you find yourself? What did you find yourself? What aspect did you feel you had to grow in 2020? Just as far as mental health, physical, mental, spiritually, What paint that picture for me.
Man, so I myself, along with like mostly everybody else, right, had to get more comfortable with being at home, right, being still, and most importantly, right, being at peace with those emotions, right, having to wrestle with some of those rough things. Matter of fact, hold on, give me 2 seconds, LeBron. I think I'm right where I need to be. I just need to go jump out real quick. All right.
Oh yeah, you good, bro.
My bad. Thank you for your patience.
Oh no, you
like
good, bro.
As I was saying, is like, man, like I had to get more comfortable with, right, my mental health in terms of understanding some things that I wasn't really so right with, right? And a lot of things seem to peak, like a lot of that imposter stuff that we kind of talked about, right? Like, what am I doing, right? All this idle time is like creating all these thoughts and all these, you know, these flashbacks in a sense where life was different, right? Life was at this more enjoyable piece. And so dealing with that distress, man, it just took like a deeper look into self. And so I had to spend a lot of time asking myself what was going on inside of myself. You know what I mean? And being the father of a 2-year-old, right? And then being in graduate school for this mental health stuff, and like still trying to completely separate and solidify my identity as a mental health professional, right? Without that piece was a struggle in itself, right? Because they are one in itself. And for the longest time, I was combating that. And then in COVID, right? With all that idle time again, right? And not being able to go anywhere, right? Not being able to talk to anybody else, right? Things just kind of got different. But lucky for me, right, in my field, I was classified as one of those essentials, right? So I still was able to do a lot of interacting, but it was still so disingenuous and plastic that it wasn't really filling the cup. So I was dealing with a lot of stuff, you know, it was following me home, and telehealth and all this other stuff was just playing a part on it. So it's just been rough, but kind of learning to adapt and to be in silence with those emotions was the hard part.
Right. And what do you feel you had to pull from to kind of dig yourself out of that, or make sure when the world kind of started opening up that you felt like you grew in some aspect, you know, when the world started kind of opening back up and you start kind of moving how you used to move?
Hold on, one more time.
I said, what do you feel like you had to dig deep into to kind of like dig yourself out of that space? So when the world did open up and the world did start to feel a bit normalized, you made sure that you grew in some capacity. So what did you have to dig, like what did you have to pull from to ultimately be a better human when we came out of this? I mean, technically we're still in it, but the world is kind of starting to normalize again and things like that. So what do you feel like you had to pull from to feel like you were your best or better self, you know, when the world opened up?
Man, to keep it a band, like it was really like this whole transition piece has taught me that like being at peace and accepting some of those, like all of those emotions and all of those feelings and characteristics, right, that the busy life helps us kind of shy from, right? Having to sit alone with those and confront those and embrace them, right, was a whole different process. But it empowered me to actually be more honest and more integral with myself. You know what I mean? So now, as the world opens back up, as we're talking about, right, and we're lessening the social distancing and we're focusing more on the physical distancing part, right, for the health, I'm able to interact in a more genuine and a more transparent aspect, right, without the shady thoughts and the mistrust, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
So that's all that's what I've been pulling, right? And when you got to spend so much time with your family, right, and everybody is stuck in a house, right? I don't know if you know, I mean, you probably don't have any kids yet, right?
No kids yet.
Lucky you, right? Unfortunately, imagine like that whole transition, right? The pandemic dynamic played, right? All of these babies get stuck at home, so now there's all that energy, right? Parents are getting stuck at home, right? And I just happen to be in one of those environments where we do have, primary age children in the house. And so their schooling being stuck in the house with my schooling, right, is now combating me with this, right? We ain't got enough Wi-Fi for that, right? We don't pay attention to all these little things, right? Until they start to create a little friction in the house, right? So it definitely increased our communication as a unit. But myself personally, it definitely improved my interpersonal and my intrapersonal communication with others.
Right. Yeah, I can attest to that. I spent quite a bit of time with some of my immediate family during the pandemic, and some of our relationships got better, and I got to be honest, on my platform, some got worse. So having to navigate, like you said, trying to peel back certain layers that I never really peeled back. I can even hanging up this jersey in the background, man. All through my 20s, I always felt like I underachieved, so I never hung my jersey up. It was knee deep in my closet. It was like I wasn't proud of what I had done, and so I had to peel back all those layers, man, and figure out why I was like this. Figure out why I wasn't proud of what I had done. And then once I revisited and went through all those emotions, the good times, the bad times, worked through those. It started making sense on, kind of like being proud of what I had done and kind of throwing away that ego. And I feel like that's why I was able to start the show where I'm interviewing NFL guys and interviewing, different guys from different walks of life, man. So I can definitely attest to, like you said, those inter and intro personal skills, man. Just trying to improve those during the pandemic.
My bad.
And we are back.
What's good, family? My fault.
What's good? Good. Oh no, you good, man. We back at it. If you cool, yeah. So like I said, I still got the part one. So if you cool with it, man, we can just dive straight into your childhood, bro.
Yeah, let's do it. So where do you want me to start? Like in terms of what?
So I saw you grew up in Colorado Springs, Colorado, man. Just kind of paint me a picture. What was it like growing up there in the 90s? I always feel old when I say this, but the kids now, they didn't grow up like we did. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have any of that things. We used to really be outside. We used to have to interact with each other, things like that. We weren't allowed in the house, especially in the summer, unless it was just to shower and sleep.
That's right. So, well, you come in that screen door, you staying in, and that's it.
Exactly. So paint me a picture. What was it like? What was it like growing up out there, man?
Man, honestly, it was a solid thing. Unfortunately, it's definitely one of those smaller cities / like bigger towns, right? Well, now it's a bigger small city right now. But it was a closed, smaller community kind of thing. But unfortunately, you definitely knew where some of the color barriers were. My grandmother and them had set up shop basically in like a white district at a point, right? Smack dab almost downtown. And so growing up in like primary school, like elementary there was all right, but it was kind of a traumatic experience in itself in terms of trying to navigate, right? Like you're always aware that you're that one black kid in class, right? And so every time the N-word would come up in like a book or something like that, you know what I mean? That's the record would stop and everybody's like, Clarence, how you feel?
So you had to deal with that. You had to deal with that as a super young person, like 6, 7, 8, 9 years old.
Bro, yeah, literally up until about middle school when I ended up transferring districts, right? My mom ended up moving to what is now like the southeast side where I stay at, right? The low income, heavy minority based in terms of the military population, right? So literally that's where everything is at. But my district that I graduated from, the black district, right? Or the more minority based was like 2 high schools, right?
Yeah.
So it was a complete culture shock. Well, in terms of like not being singled out so much now because I'm that one black kid as opposed to like, you know what I mean?
Right.
being amongst more people that look like you, and so you're given a lot more like leeway or grace in a sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that was a little different, and I bounced between District 2 and District 11. So I bounced between my old school district and like the primary school district, like the wider district, and this district full of color, like from middle school, like back and forth, 6th to 8th grade. Ended up finishing back in District 2, where I ended up going to high school at. But at this point, right, the attention seeking behaviors and stuff like that were already set in stone. And so they were only getting worse. Right.
Yeah,
and as I mentioned that back and forth in middle school, it was kind of like that identity piece, right? Like one of those identities, like, who am I, right? Am I that dark skinned, am I that guy with the E's and R's, right? The too white kid, or right? Am I the little hoodlum over here in District 2, right?
And I feel like naturally you're gonna battle with that because you know the color of your skin. You're a black boy, but you're around so many people that don't look like you, so they don't know what it feels like to be black. So naturally, you're going to battle with who am I, like that identity crisis. Who am I? Am I, like you said? Am I this hood guy? From here, or am I immersed in like this white culture? But oh man, like I'm not white. So like, am I supposed to be here? Like, so it's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Where's my sense of belonging, right? And so then we move forward to high school, where that push for acceptance and belonging was real deep, right? And that single parent aspect is a factor, unfortunately, right? Like you understand that like most of, if not all of the real male like interaction connections that you have are sports related. Ergo, like it's condition based, right? Performance based, and that comes with this whole different acceptance piece as well. And so naturally, you get mixed in with the wrong crowds. I'm doing all these other things. But by freshman year, I ended up getting caught up, right, with some young girl who falsely accused me of sexual misconduct, right? Like some crazy shit, to the point to where I ended up getting taken out of school like my freshman year for months, and I was sitting in juvie for like 2 months. Then I couldn't until the investigation was complete, right after the fact, and everything was kind of squashed because the truth finally comes out and shit. I wasn't allowed to be at the school, right? So you talk about a whole nother transition, right? Like we're literally like, I finally kind of found a niche, right? Like something like a environment where I'm not doing too bad, right? I'm almost being accepted, right? I get to kind of be myself, right? People look like me, so I'm not being singled out as much. And then boom, they take that, and then like a whole bunch of stuff had taken place between 9th grade and senior year, right? And so we were kind of hinting on like ACEs, which are those adverse childhood experiences, right? Like those traumatic experiences that one endures that we end up normalizing because it's something that we are conditioned.
We all normalize it. Yes.
Yeah. So we learn to navigate in those chaotic realms because it's second nature, right?
Exactly.
And so by the time I hit K-State, right, like my freshman year, I was already full blown product of environment, right? So
right. You was typed up.
Go through another transition, right? I'm leaving little old Colorado Springs, right, where I had some simple successes, well, in terms of this condition-based performance stuff, right?
That was gonna be my question. How was this transition from Colorado Springs to, I forgot where Kansas State is, but
Manhattan, Kansas, man. And it was one and almost the same. And I say that because like literally I went from bigger fish, right, in this diverse pond, to little fish again in this bigger white institution, right? There was like 6 to 8% of us there, and they were all on
Minority.
sports teams, right?
Right. Bro, that's
in,
I
like,
want I
certain
want I wanted
programs.
I wanted to talk to you about that because I went to the University of Iowa, which is a PWI as well. And I obviously I hadn't done my research. The state of Iowa is like 3% minority. Like it's a 97, 98% white state. So I literally truly and really did not know what I was getting myself into. And I think as athletes, like you said, everything is conditioned performance based. Like we're getting all these scholarship offers and we're getting treated like all-stars. All
They
based
love
on
the
how
niggas then.
yeah. All based on how we perform. All based on our performance, our athleticism, all these outlier things. Nothing interpersonal, just what we can do for for them, what we can do athletically. Like so I know that transition was hard for you because it was hard. It was very hard for me.
Man. Yeah, and damn, I'm sorry about the camera thing. This lighting in this office is not very good. But
Oh yeah, no, it's fine. Good.
yeah, man, like the transition was a little easier because of the fact that you had already kind of had some experience, right? Some resilience in this area, but for the most part, it was another huge transition, right? Little black boy in a big white world by himself. Right? I don't really got nobody out there, right? I don't know too many people in damn Manhattan, Kansas, right? Or Kansas as a whole, right? No real relative anyway.
Right.
Lucky for me, I kind of had a homeboy, like someone who I consider like my brother, like a best friend. He ended up going to K-State too, right? But then we're in this split world yet again, right? Where I'm the athlete and trying to stay connected through pledging, right? And he is the normal kid, right? Going to school, being a student, and then pledging, right? So all of this, the little liberties that everybody else gets to enjoy, like being a part of the BSU and like really getting to enjoy being immersed in all of these different worlds, you don't really have that, right? In football. And if you're not connecting with your teammates like that, then you're really about to be out there isolated, which was me, right? So it was rough, bro. So like that first 2.5 years of my college career was tough. So I ended up getting in some trouble up at K-State, right? And then they offer me a state stay at the local state penitentiary, right, for a couple of years, or you get your shit together. So naturally, right, you do what you got to do.
Right.
So ended up transferring to Northern Colorado.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Because what went into your decision, like essentially during recruiting in high school to go to Kansas State? I know that you were pretty much a local star in the Colorado Springs area, highly recruited. I'm sure you had several scholarship offers. Who were your top three during recruiting, and then why Kansas State? Why, like you said, Colorado Springs, Colorado, to Manhattan, Kansas? What what went into your decision? Did you want to stay in state? Did you have any in-state offers? Like what kind of went into that decision to choose Kansas State?
So I did have some in-state offers. Like Colorado State was heavy, right? And so I was thinking that, but long term, right? Internally, I'm thinking, the further I go, the more successful I'll be, right? If I remove myself from the situation, right?
Exactly.
Then, but of course I didn't have the maturity nor the skills for that. But anyways, it was between like Kansas State, there was Washington State, there was New Mexico, there was Colorado State, Arizona. But like I didn't know anything about any of this shit, right? Because again, I didn't have any kind of male
my
consistent
mentor,
role model, right? Like a guide, right? And so all of these things I'm literally learning trial by fire,
just
right?
navigating,
so,
right.
By the seat of my pants, right? Just by the manhood that I've attained through my own little journey, right? And so I didn't know what the hell was going on. Like I didn't even get my clearinghouse stuff done until like the week before it was time to like graduate.
Last
you know
minute.
what I mean? So
yeah.
I had low exposure. I didn't even really understand the dynamics of what it meant to go to a Division I school, right? I didn't even know that there were different levels of these universities, right?
Right.
And so I'm just like, look, I'm gonna play ball, and if I can get out, I'm gonna get out, right? And then I went to a skills camp, at Kansas State, right, with a
Mhm.
group of cats from here, from my high school, and they were heavy recruiting one of our DB slash receivers.
Mhm.
And, the eye in the sky kind of painted the light, right? And so I got the
Mhm.
exposure secondhand. And so
Yeah.
they offered first in the more major way, like we're leaving the camp. And Ron Prince at the time calls me and he's like, yo, I'm gonna offer you, and
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
goes the condition-based influence, right? So I'm in a car, right? I'm in a car with my teammates traveling back home from Kansas. And he like has me put it on speakerphone because they're like on some radio show. And then he offers, right? And so now who the hell am I to say no, right? I don't have any scholar. I don't really have any definitive anything, like no future
Yeah.
plans. I got no, no bag to fall on or nothing like that. So
Right.
it's like,
Right.
here you go. Are you
Yeah.
going to be that guy and get that love from this? Or are you going to let this opportunity pass by and be looked at as a statistic, right? One of
Right.
those guys. So here I am, verbally committed, right, to
Mm.
Kansas State at the end of my junior year on the way home.
That's a hell of a marketing scheme for them to do that on a radio show.
Boy,
I've never heard of it. I've never heard anything like that.
do you see what I'm saying? So like
Yeah.
it's wild the way it gets played out because nobody really pays attention to the conditioning that takes place.
Right.
Right.
I got
Because
you. I got you.
again, yeah, so it was intense. So anyhow, like I didn't take any other recruiting trips or none of that other stuff, right? I even opted
Yeah.
out of the all-state game because these cats literally had jumped in my hip pocket to the point to where like I'm talking to my recruiting coach every day. We're doing the whole back and forth with the grades
Mhm.
thing, like the weekly
Mhm.
checks and stuff like that. Here goes
Mhm.
that, the smoke and mirrors, right? I care. What do you got to prove there? You need to hurry up and get out here, right? So I barely hit 18 and got the hell out, right? Barely
Yeah.
graduated high
Yeah.
school and was out. But it was a struggle because, like, again, I wasn't there half my freshman year because I'm
Mhm.
like going through this bull crap, right? So speak to that, right? Like literally going through this huge traumatic experience and trying to transition back into that same program where this young girl was still going to school, right? And
Mhm.
so this is a constant trauma, like but I couldn't identify that. I just knew to
Yeah.
stay the hell
Yeah.
away, right,
Yeah.
and
Not
keep my
back then. Yeah.
distance.
Right.
So it's just one of those things, man.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
wild.
I totally understand that. So, like, what went into your decision to leave K State and ultimately transfer to Northern Colorado? I'm not sure how far that is from Colorado Springs, but you go back to your home state. What ultimately went into that decision to do that? And because I think you redshirted your first year at K State, right? And then your second
Mhm.
year, I'm sure maybe like play like special teams or sparingly or something like that. So yeah, just
You know,
walk me through that.
honestly, it was either make something shake, dude, or commit career suicide, right? So, man, I could literally like paint a deep ass picture about this. Hold on. So initially, what happened was I got into an argument with the strength coach, who
Mhm.
basically I got in a power struggle with this cat because he was trying to tell me I was late when I got to workouts on time. But on time means late. Hadn't grasped that
Right.
concept because I'm this young cat. Like, look, motherfucker, I got here, goddamn. Like, leave me alone, right? It's four something in the
Yeah.
morning. What the fuck do you want, right? I'm a kid. I'm here. Damn, I came to lift weights, right? Like, so
Hey, that's real. That's
we
real.
we go through this whole fucking tiff about how he's like, nah, dog, you're getting your ass on the stairmaster and doing all these levels after the da-da-da, like after practice. And I don't know if you went to Iowa, so you are familiar with Fry, right? And his
Yeah.
concepts.
Yep.
Doug Bill Snyder's no different, right? He's another plantation owner as well, right? He's running that shit like he's supposed to. So
Yeah.
we would have these 3-hour practices and have to restart type shit, you know what I mean? If he wasn't happy. So he's like, yeah, after that, you're going to come do all these floors and then you're going to have to go over there to eat your dinner and then get your ass to study table XYZ. And I'm like, bro, I can't do that. I'm not doing it. Because I
Right.
was not like, right. And so at the time I was playing, I think it was outside backer at the time. my position coach comes in there and he tries to pull this motherfucker, like he literally flexed and he's like, you motherfucking piece of shit. You're basically saying, you know, fuck your teammates, fuck you, da, 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 da. And he's like, you get your ass out there, da, da, da. And I was like, hold on, bro, like,
Right.
right. This is where I was torn, right? I'm torn and I'm like, bro, do I spaz out and go after this nigga and tee off, or do I need to, like, what's happening here, right? Because I'm still a kid, right? I'm fresh.
Bro,
My
D-line coach at Iowa was the same way. The biggest asshole. He gonna curse you out, call you all kinds of names. I battled with that same kind of energy for my whole career. Like, man, like, you want to just go outside, bro, because like I'll end this shit in 2 minutes. Like, you want to just take it outside. And as I got older and unpacked that, coaches like what you're referring to, something that I went through, they took advantage of their power. They took advantage of their power. They took advantage of their power because you have this power in a controlled space because you're the position coach. So you're over these 15 guys, you know, and you're teaching them.
Directly.
But you don't demean them. You don't call them fucking names. You don't do, like, these guys 18, 19 from that shit, from the dirt. Like, they because if you go outside, you might lose your life. Like, you might KA for real. Like, you know what I mean? So I understand that so wholeheartedly, bro, because I went through the same thing. So you said he came in and you really was like, all right, yeah, nah, like, this ain't.
Bro, I was charged. I was like, you know what?
Yeah,
look,
this ain't that. This ain't that.
And this is right at the point where I had already realized that, you know, this was a business, right? And then here I am, right? Completely trying to assimilate in the best way possible, right? And so I've literally forfeited my whole identity for this number, right? This number on these jerseys and shit, right? Submitted my whole identity for that because, look, here goes that conditional performance. And I don't want this cracker yelling at me like that. I don't want him talking to me like that because, again, was never really taught the emotional management because that wasn't a thing where we were at, right? That's not the exposure piece. What we know is this verbal attack is directly a challenge, right? And you need to neutralize it. Right. And so, like, man, I was like, it's time to go, right? Because my freshman year, when I got there, I wanted to leave, but my old high school coach talked me into staying. He's like, nah, you committed. That's also what got me into just staying with the Kansas State thing, right? You got this trusted individual, this cat that has literally been basically like your father figure, right? This is your one connection, this white guy, right? Who's coaching your high school football team. Right. And whether, like, I know he genuinely gave a damn at a point, right? And I know he genuinely does, but like at the end of the day, he's got to keep food on the table too, right? And so he gets to keep his position, the more people he gets to send to these universities, right? And et cetera, because that exposure piece is huge. And so he's like, no, you got to stick it out. You got to stick it out. You know, you got to grind it out. You got to grind it out. Don't, you know, here goes the mind fuck, right? Don't be one of those guys. Don't be a statistic. Da-da-da. Right. And so all of this stuff happens and I get into this tiff and I was like, bro, you know, I'm going to take some space because I'm about to I'm about to implode
on your ass.
Yeah, because you got one more pussy bitch something to call me.
Yeah, name calling and all that.
It's gonna have to be, your demoralization and all this degradation, bro, is about to turn into, look, I'm a man first, right?
Physical alteration.
It's about to escalate there. So so like, anyways, then I get pulled into the office, right? And then they spin it, right? And at the end of the day, it's a business. They pay them, their employees. They do not pay me, right? I am the expendable piece here. And so what happened was I ended up getting suspended. Bill calls me in his office and he's like, look, basically, I don't even want to hear your side of the story. I know what happened. My coaches told me and I'm taking their word for it. So until we can determine your future. Bro, and then they keep me, they keep me dangled. Like, they keep me dangled. Talk about the mind fuck here. Because you're right, out of state kid, right? Full ride scholarship, can't fuck up those numbers. Got to keep them on until further notice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they kept me on. Here comes the bowl game. I think we went to the Pinstripe Bowl that year. And right when it's time to collect some of those shiny trinkets and whatnot, right? Some of that love.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, nah, bro, they pulled you off the roster, huh? And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, if that's the case, I need my release is right now. Not now, but right now, Bill. Now I don't get to talk to this man until the end of the semester. They keep pushing and pushing, meetings and meetings and meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And naturally, I fell back into the product of the environment situation, right? Which led to me getting that offer in the sweet state, right? So
mm-hmm.
I had to get out of there, and then I finally get releases after the whole drama shit kicks off.
Mm-hmm.
And he only releases me to 2 places. Out of the 18 on my list, he releases me to Northern Colorado and CSU Pueblo. And we both understand that without that release, you can't attain a scholarship, right? So now here comes the debt, here comes the extra stress, here it comes.
And that's an important piece that I don't want our listeners or viewers to miss. People don't understand how much leverage as a college athlete that you don't have. That you don't have. That you don't
Zero.
have.
Zero.
So now, and I can only vouch for when I went through it as well. Now they have more leverage because now they have a transfer portal. So whatever place they choose to go to, that original coach has to sign off. They have to release. But back then when we were in it, that wasn't the case. If they wanted to hold guard you or not, like okay, you went to Kansas State, so maybe what if you wanted to go to Oklahoma or somewhere else in the Big 12?
Blacklisted.
He's not letting it happen. He's not releasing.
No way in hell.
And that's a piece that I think a lot of fans or people who just really like football, they don't understand that. Like, and parents as well, they don't even understand what they're getting their kids into as far as you don't have any leverage.
Speak to that because right, you literally remember that fucking letter of intent, right? That letter fucking of intent, dude. And as soon as you hit this institution, you signed away your likeness rights. People don't understand that either, right? And so in that situation, if I wanted to transfer across in the Big 12, not only could he have fucking hoed me, right, and blacklisted my shit, but he could have also, right, he could have also stripped me of an entire year of eligibility by doing some shit like that, right? Because you couldn't transfer laterally, right, without sacrificing a year. So here comes the Northern Colorado piece. These are all D1 AA's and whatever and D2s, right, that I've put on this list because, again, I didn't know, right? And my mama damn sure didn't know, right? All she knows is all these motherfuckers keep coming to the door offering her child a way out, right?
Right.
And selling her this dream and selling me this dream of all of these things, right? And the worst part of it, dog, is like now they're going to start trying to pay these athletes, and I hope they get to that point. Unfortunately, it's only going to reiterate the business aspect of things, right? So now, like, if it wasn't one thing to basically monetize the love of the game, right? You strip these young kids of the passion and you turn it into a carrot, right? And when that carrot never gets hit or something less than, it's a whole different world, and nobody wants to talk about that shit either.
I love that because on one end, I got to be honest, I am happy that players at soon they'll be able to monetize off their likeness. I'm happy about that. As a college student, if you come from nothing, the only money you getting or is that Pell Grant, that scholarship check, and you making a shake with that. But like you said, with that other piece, them monetizing off their likeness, is it going to become is this going to become a business? Is the passion for college football going to become less? Because everyone likes watching college football more than the NFL
hungry.
Because
they're hungry.
That's what they say. They're not getting paid. They're playing for the passion. Right. But now they're finally going up with the time. So now guys are going to be able to start being paid for their likeness. And obviously, like we just spoke to, I love the transfer portal. I love the fact that the coaches don't hold the leverage anymore. A player can enter the transfer portal and they can go anywhere they want. And whatever previous coach, they have to sign off on that. I promise you, if that was implemented when I went, I would have left. If that was implemented when I went transfer.
If someone would have exposed me to that, I would have been like, hell yeah, I'm out. Right.
But for us, when we was there, it wasn't like that. We didn't have that transfer portal option. You had to go through a lot more loopholes to transfer. You couldn't transfer in conference.
Yes.
If you try to go to another big school, like you said, that previous head coach will hold your release, or they wouldn't release you. Like, it's just, people don't know that. People don't know that.
Yeah. So and like, it's because nobody talks about it, right? We're all stuck in the condition phase, right? We all see the bigger picture, right? We want the glory, the fame, and all these other things, man. But you talk about the psychological warfare that's waged all the way through that, right? So I'm literally already coming from a broken family system, right? So there's trauma there, right? In terms of the ability to trust others, especially in authority positions, right? And then the ability to actually sustain and create relationships and actually foster these things, because again, don't have emotional regulation, right? I don't have the management skills, and I don't have real effective communication at that end, right? I know how to blend, but when you literally go from, all right, so you go from the little broken family system, right? Then you jump into this big institution where you're just another number, right? It just feeds and feeds and feeds. And the one connection that I had at Kansas State was gone the fucking summer after I got there, right? So then I lose that piece, right?
Yeah.
And then all these things start to take place, and then naturally, right, I end up at Northern Colorado, where I was blessed enough to have another go at it, right? Which led to
second
us
chance,
meeting, right?
Right.
Led to us meeting, but at the same time, like at the time where you and I were introduced, right? I was so filled with that rage, hate, anger, and all these other different things. Like, bro, I was a time bomb, and every time Simp opened his mouth, I wanted blood, right? And I'm like, what is this, right? Even like doing all these different things in different leagues, right? Like you touching in like the Canadian League at some point, right? And just bouncing around and all of these different transient things that are always unstably moving, right? So it's
super unstable,
chaos.
Super
then
unstable.
You move home.
You can't really control anything. It's all kind of uncontrollable. You can't control everything. You got to kind of go with it. So I definitely understand.
And if you weren't one of the ones who was actually trying to do your work through the process and letting others do it for you, like most of us, right? You don't take away any skills, right? You're basically handicapped, man. And then you get in the real world and you don't know what the hell is going on because you only know one thing. And now that identity is gone. And because you're so emotionally, psychologically, spiritually crippled and disconnected, right? It takes you so much longer to build a stable life because you don't know shit but transience, man, and chaos, right? Not living like man, I think his name Craig Robertson, right? Craig Robertson, LB out in the league, right? We were training in Texas at one point, and he goes, "Bruh, word of advice: don't ever unpack your." He said, "Don't unpack your gym bag." He said, "Don't get comfortable and start putting shit in drawers until you sign your contract, right? Not that entry level thing, not that, hey, we like you shit. Maybe you can get on the bus, but we want to sink money into you. Here goes your contract, right?" He said, until you get that, you don't really have a shingle to hang on, right? And it was crazy because he literally hit his big contract that year. And the next year he went from Cleveland to New Orleans.
To New Orleans. Yeah, I know Craig Robertson.
Yeah, tons of this, right?
Yep.
And so if you don't have the skills that you're supposed to gain from playing these sports, right? Like these abilities to persevere and build resilience and foster and create relations because you're immersed in these diverse situations. If you don't take those skills, you don't have anything else. And so then you basically end up with all these statistics, unfortunately, right? All these young playground legends who can't outgrow what they knew and just don't know anything else. It's the same guys that are putting out workout videos and still trying to get on people's indoor teams and shit, right?
Right. That make a lot of sense to me, man. Let's backtrack. So you go to Colorado. I mean, you go to Northern Colorado, but you go ape shit, right? You ball out. I think I saw you amass over like 300 tackles like over the next few years. You went off, man. So where did you channel some of that rage from Kansas State and from everything that you had been through growing up? And then once you got to Northern Colorado, and things were kind of stable for a few years, and at that point you just went off and actually gave yourself a chance to play professionally, whether it was NFL, CFL, or arena league?
I'm gonna be honest with you, there was never stability, right? And so at that point, my dog, to keep it $150, I was playing for my life. Literally, I didn't have shit else, right?
Yeah.
I can't survive another transfer, right? I'm getting older, and this clock is starting to shrink, right? And here I am at this fucking this D1 AA, which I never knew existed, right? For the most part, right? I didn't know. I'm playing teams, and I'm like, bro, I've never knew that this team existed, right? Like, what is this, right? So literally, I was like, yo, I got to do what I can do, right? And then I had my platform to actually just lose myself, right? Because this was the therapy, right? Lose myself between the white lines. Right.
Exactly.
And so
same here. Just that
right?
ultimate release. That ultimate release. Yeah.
I'm out here trying to be healthy, right? And I'm out here trying to find a way to make a way, right? Because there's so many different things depending on this last shot.
Exactly.
And because I was up at K-State, right, letting people do my fucking homework and getting answers to tests and living that privileged lifestyle, right? I disabled myself. So I get to Northern Colorado, right? And it's a whole different ballgame because we're not Nike, we're not the Coliseum, we're not all these things anymore, right? We're just little ass Northern Colorado with a losing record. And so wherever you want to call it, there's still some hopefuls, but ain't no females like biting on that kind of stuff. Like ain't nobody digging that, right? We see that you're balling, we hear all these things, but y'all can't win games, so we don't give a shit. Right, here goes that condition. Here goes that performance-based conditional love and acceptance piece, right? So things started really clicking there, and then I got injured. I tore my pec after my first little ball out season, right? Was like nationally ranked at a point, right? Because of all these tacks and shit, because I went off. But I'll tell you the way this recruiter from the Falcons told me. He said, bro, look, here's the thing. At a school like this, in a conference like that, right, with a team that way, if you're taking 100 snaps a game and you're that guy, you're supposed to have 20 tackles a game, 19 tackles a game, right? But that ain't enough to separate you from XYZ. You feel me? And so it was one of those things like, dog, you don't really have anything left. You're going to do what you can do right here, right now. And that's it. Or you're going to have to go to school and figure out how to be an adult. But I was still too conditioned, right? Because then here comes a little small marginal success. And here come all these other things, right? The NFL teams are coming in to see me weekly, daily, all these things, watching practice, gassing me up, right? Here comes the conditioning. We're not worried about your interpersonal skills, bro. We're just worried about, can you tackle? Can you chase guys out of bounds and shit like that, right? Can you produce for our institution? Can you produce for us?
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense. So, man, one thing that I love talking about that I feel like gets lost in translation, and this back in like 2012, 2013, this is when I really started feeling like an athlete's mental health was not taken serious or minimized. And obviously back then I was 23, 24. I didn't know how to voice that. I didn't know how to find a voice or find a platform to talk about that. Finally, 8 years later, I'm here now. But talk about that transition, like when you're preparing for the upcoming draft. I think you were 2014 NFL draft, and you don't get picked up. Maybe you sign a priority free agent deal, maybe you don't, but you're a college graduate. So technically, your parents tell you, or the people in your neighborhood tell you, you get a college degree, you made it out, right? Okay, I got a college degree, but now I'm in this space of limbo because, okay, I just graduated, but I didn't get picked up to the NFL, but I got to work out 4 or 5 times a week, stay in shape because I might get a workout or a tryout. But now I got to either go home to Colorado Springs or I got to stay wherever I'm at. But now I got bills. Now I got grown-up bills. Like now I'm not getting a scholarship check anymore. Now I'm not getting a Pell Grant. I'm a college graduate. So that limbo space, what was that like for you? Because for me, that was the toughest time of my life. Like that was the darkest. That was the darkest time of my life. That was when I found myself in so many dark spaces, like I didn't even know who I was anymore, because I knew that just me even thinking about the things that I was thinking about, I'm like, man, damn, Brian, that's not even you. But things had got so bad for me as far as like financially, as far as just being able to take care of myself. But here I am still trying to train every day. I'm still hearing from teams. I'm still getting workouts. But I'm like, okay, I got a degree. Okay, my degree was in sports management. So how do I get a job? How do I get an internship? I'm not getting any callbacks. I'm not getting any interviews. So
What the fuck?
I mean, yeah. I'm like, I'm panicking, and I'm at my dad's house, like as a fresh college graduate, 23, trying to figure it out. He's got all these questions. You know, he got bills. I got to start helping out with the rent. I mean, it's just so many things pulling at me. Like, so talk to that state of limbo for you. Like, once you graduated, when maybe you thought you were going to get drafted, things like that. Maybe it didn't happen. Talk about that time for you, because for me, that was a part that I hate reliving, but I know that has to be talked about. That has to be detailed through, because guys need to know about this time before they graduate. They need to already have it. They need to already have a game plan, because I'm telling you, if you don't have a game plan, like you don't want to be in that dark space. So talk to that a little bit.
Say that. Okay. I think basically, man, you hit it right on the head. So in my situation was, I can recall the very last day, right, where they go through that 112th pick, right? And all of my boys, right? Like, so, man, all of my guys, right? You know, the guys that you trained with, all of these connections, etc. Right? Everybody's calling you, giving you the dirt, right? Oh, just da 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 da, start da da da. I'm going here, da 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 da, right? They just called me, blah blah blah, and nothing came, right? So literally to the point where I was demoralized. But right, because I had started doing some self-work when I got injured, like I had already braced myself for these possibilities in a sense. But that didn't stop me from pursuing it, right? Because it was easier, right? It was a comfort level thing. So graduate, come home, right? Start coaching my high school team, right? Or helping out with these guys. And I'm working like 3-4 jobs, still working out, trying to stay in shape, right? Waiting on my agent to give me some good news. And like nothing ever really took place, right? And so ended up firing him, right? And I went through, man, dog, I literally, because again, I didn't have any kind of guidance or anything in this process, bro. Like, so it was always a blind struggle, right? Literally to the point where I had already known in my heart that I was done playing football, right? But I also knew, right, based on this lifestyle that I know, that's where my acceptance, love, and all of my belonging and shit, my validation's coming from. So I can't afford to stop that again, right? Because then I'm really gonna lose my identity, because I ain't gonna be nobody. I ain't gonna be shit except college graduate, right? Ain't you supposed to be in the league, right? You da 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 da. And I'm telling you, man.
Those are the questions that people greet. Those are the questions that people greet you with, because that's what they know you as.
Oh, bro, talk to that, right? So it was rough, man. It was rough, and I recall like being so resentful, right, and so just disappointed in myself, right? Because
Exactly.
I was supposed to get mom out the hood, right? I was supposed to
man. Same here.
I don't let everybody down, right? I'm a worthless piece of shit, right? I can work 87 jobs, dog, and none of that shit's gonna matter. And so I went through this emotional matrix of just trying to be everything except myself, dog. I was a fucking a corrections officer. I was a therapist. I was a mover. I was anything that could kind of distract from the fact, right? And gave me validation for being the fucking size that we are, right? Because we're not normal size. Right. We're not the average American size. We're fucking semi demigod kind of shit, right? We're not average, right? And so here come those stupid ass questions, and Lord forbid, right? Lord forbid they know you or they fuck around and Google you. right? And they see that you're basically, in terms of our old world, right, a washout.
Right.
So then you have to deal with oh, you're just an NFL reject. Obviously, you weren't good enough. Right. So I was just struggling, man. And so I really started digging deep in like what the hell was going on, because substance use increased, right? So now I'm basically dealing with a co-occurring disorder, right? I'm dealing with the anxiety, the stress, the PTSD, all of these different things on top of the copious amounts of alcohol that I was able to consume, right? Because I've been conditioned, right? This is a rite of passage at 21, and it's so celebrated, right? This is my shit, right? This will fix it. So anyways, it really wasn't until about 2016, after that Barnstormer trip, that I was like, you know what? I've been out here wasting time. Like, I need to go figure something out and start utilizing these 2 degrees that I, got in undergrad, right? And start trying to do something, right? At least tell somebody a story that'll help somebody not do this shit, right? Because I literally didn't know what to do. So ended up retiring finally, and I moved home, where all of this stuff started to kind of fit into place. I was working as a youth advocate and a counselor at like an alternative school, following just a bunch of school jobs and stuff, like behavior interventionist and all of those things. And then I started to recognize how important mental health really is, right? Because you got so many different things that plague the individual mind, especially when you have someone with stress scores that are out of this roof before they hit puberty, right? So you speak to that and it going unnoticed and untreated, right? And it just creates a different kind of monster in a sense. I was tired of seeing that. I was tired of being that. And the universe provided me with the baby bump, right? And so it was like, here's my second shot at being a father. Let me slow down and take it seriously, so I can raise an individual person, right? I can raise a whole ass person.
That makes a lot of sense, man. I love that you talked about 2016, because obviously that's when we met. We were teammates for a while, and it's funny that you talked about that, because 2016 was the last time I strapped it up. I'm sure it was probably the last time you strapped it up as well. But 2017, that was a hard year for me, because that's when I think I was probably like 27 by then. But that's when reality kicked in, like, okay, because I played for the Barnstormers. I only played 10 games, but I had a hell of a 10-week stretch. I had an agent at the time, so he shot my film around. And that's when I got the age thing. Like, so he shopped it around all the NFL teams. They all said they love what they saw. He's a hell of a player. But at this point, I'm 27. I'm 27. He's like, and they're like, man, I can get a player half of his talent at 21 and then get him to be the player he is by 23, but he's 27. So like, it didn't even matter how many plays I made, what my film looked like. I was 27, almost 28. And so that's a liability. They just weren't. Exactly. They weren't against that. They weren't with that. So that's when I had to swallow that pill. Like, okay, damn, I think I'm down with football. And so that's when I went through that identity crisis, because I'm like, okay, I'm down with ball. So I started trying to, like, I'm just sitting there like, okay, like, who am I? Like, I'm not a football player anymore. So who am I?
Exactly.
And for the life of me, I couldn't figure it out. Like, so
it's a stressful thing.
Yeah. So I had to, like,
dark, man.
And that's when another dark period came. So what I had to do was go back into my life, and I had to actually go back into my childhood and think about things that I used to like to do before sports took over my well-being. And so before that, I used to like be in the choir. I was more in the arts. I used to be in the choir. I was in like a dance group. I used to sketch a lot. I was like one of the best sketchers at school. So I'm like, okay, damn. So I started sketching again. I wonder, can I still sketch? Because I hadn't sketched in years. Actually still had it. Then I was like, okay, what can I do in the arts? I had done some acting, because I had been in a dance group. So I was like, I was in Atlanta, still living in Atlanta right now. So I'm like, I've heard there's a lot of acting opportunities, but I never thought about actually trying to do it. And so then I just started applying for different stuff, and it just kind of took off. And then I had to learn the entertainment industry and things of that nature, and I'm still learning. But I've done a lot of things over the last few years, and I think acting and storytelling, that's actually helped me heal from different things that I went through as a adolescent and as an athlete, and it's given me enough courage to have a platform like this, have a podcast. I never was comfortable talking in front of the camera, like I was.
Or you
never
didn't even like talking to people.
in general. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I was about to say that.
I'm like, yo, what do you mean?
Yeah. And you were my teammate, so you know, and all my teammates. Obviously, I've had hundreds of teammates in college and pro and high school, but they all know I never was a super talkative guy unless I know you, and if I really know you, it's going to take a while for me to like kind of take that shield off, and I'm probably only going to talk to you. Like I really was not. I didn't talk that much. Like so, but I had to go through that another dark space, another dark period of digging deep, just trying to figure out who I was, you know, and then and like you spoke to figuring out how important mental health was. I felt like that's why I wanted to, you know, create this platform as well, because our mental health as former athletes, man, it's always minimized. No one ever talks about it. They just internalize it or you know, smoking some weed or drink, but they never want to talk about it. And that's how you really heal. That's how you really heal, is speaking about it. So I love that you're in mental health now.
I appreciate all that vulnerability right there, right? Because it's difficult.
Man. Yeah.
That's the biggest piece right here, right? Because through the toxic masculine culture that we live in, right?
Exactly.
We're taught that being in tune with emotions and all this other stuff and challenging these characteristics and traits that we all exhibit, right? In the shadow self of ourself, right?
Right.
Nobody wants to holler about that, right? Because it's uncomfortable, right? It makes
very
everybody else. Yeah, man. And so you find a lot of people compartmentalizing and compromising their own character, right? Afraid to actually open up and take the mask off, like you were talking about, right?
Exactly.
Unveiling your true self, because you like, I've been through so many different things and so many transitions in people, right? I don't know if I can trust giving that kind of energy away time and time again and being able to survive it. Right.
Absolutely.
So it's bananas, man. Like I legit feel as though most people, right, especially parents of student athletes, especially younger student athletes, right, they need to start speaking to the entire process of what it looks like to be a high profile candidate in the athletic realm, right? And I think through that, we can actually start creating like whole three-dimensional beings. And when I say three-dimensional beings, I mean individuals who are aware enough to be able to look at things bigger picture, right? And connect self and world as one, right? Because what happens is we get so hell-bent on trying to create this identity or this mask, right? You create this whole social persona, right, that makes it look like everything is fine. And we get lost in that and we buy in, and then we wonder why we can never find that true happiness piece, right? Or why, you know, you can't stop drinking or whatever the case may be. And it's because we're not normalizing these things, right? And we have to start, like, to increase that awareness piece, man, we have to start having these conversations younger and younger and younger. Right? I see my youngest client right now is 4 years old, dog. Right? A 4-year-old child, right? You speak to the conditions there, and he's already been through a ton, right? A ton of ACEs or adverse childhood experiences that are going to weigh heavy on him through his entire development if nobody wants to start speaking about these things and start creating relational ties and reinforcing the trust.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we
that's
literally
so powerful.
send these babies up to these institutions and we entrust them to take care of our individual child, right? When in turn they have too much other stuff going on.
Exactly.
Right. And if we don't create that resilience and work on that little individual, he'll fall victim to it. And if he can't excel and exceed those limits and be that 1%, then he's gonna fall wayside to the 99. And
Right. And I think that's why mental health is so powerful, because it's like you said, if you don't unpack all your different experiences, it's gonna come out in one way or another. It doesn't matter how old you are. I remember, man, I had a breakdown. I think I was probably like about 28, still finally trying to figure myself out. Feel like I had figured myself out as far as just being an artist, liking to tell stories, things of that nature. And out of nowhere, like on a Saturday, like today, like to say on a normal Saturday, I had a breakdown, and I'm talking about to the point where I was like uncontrollably like weeping. Like I was sitting on my couch and I fell off of my couch like onto the floor, like weeping, like just it was just a full long breakdown. And that's when I knew, like, okay, I need to go talk to somebody. I need some form of therapy. I haven't unpacked the physical abuse I went through as a child. I haven't unpacked the verbal abuse I went through in college. Like
that psychological abuse, all the neglect.
Exactly. So many things that I went through, I never unpacked them. Like you said, I compartmentalized. It wasn't. I was raised to, put your chest out, like whatever you go through, fall down 7 times, get up. Hey, yeah, man up. Like, so I never even thought to. Exactly. I never thought to discuss it. I never, it was like oh no, I'm worried about the
foreign
next thing.
concept.
Okay. Exactly.
Bro, it's taboo, especially in that realm, man. Damn, I'm glad you did this. I'm so glad you did this.
So when that happened, I actually remember FaceTiming my sister. I'm a twin. I think I told you I have a twin sister, and I remember FaceTiming her, and because it had never happened. I had never had a breakdown my entire life. So I was like, I uncontrollably fell. I was uncontrollably crying. I didn't know who to call, what to do. So I FaceTimed her, and she just like basically gave me like a calm down speech, or kind of processed it through it with me a little bit, just to get me to calm down, like so I could at least sit up off the floor and like kind of get myself together. I'm like, what is going on? And then she brought it up, like she was like, we both need therapy, because we both been through some crazy shit like that we never unpacked. Like, and so that's when I was like, okay, well, I need to find someone like next week. And so I went to my job and I started asking questions like, okay, is therapy covered under my health insurance? Like, how do I find a therapist? Like, I started really doing the work and doing the homework to get somewhere to talk to somebody. I knew I was like, I had to talk to somebody, and I felt lucky, because a lot of times those breakdowns come out in athletes physically, like aggressively, where they'll put their hands on you or something like that. Luckily for me, it was just a breakdown. And so I feel blessed, because some guys, they may pick up a gun and put it to their head, or take it out on their family or their spouse or their kids, whatever, because they don't know how to handle it. So luckily it was just a breakdown for me. I was alone. And so I knew that I needed help. And that's when I was like, okay, this mental health thing, this shit is serious. Like, so I started going to therapy. And as I progressed, I got introduced to meditation and mindfulness music and just all those things that you learn in therapy that I never used to practice, right? And so I still have a whole process that I do every morning, as far as listening to mindfulness music, meditating, saying what I'm happy for, saying what I'm best for. I have to do it every day to keep myself level,
grounded,
to keep myself in the game. Yeah.
Got to stay grounded, right? And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I'm so proud of you for actually taking that avenue as well, right? I literally experienced a similar situation where that was the point, right? And it really, like, I was still in denial for so long that it didn't really hit me until it was a requirement in my master's level clinical program. Like, dog, you have to endure your own process. And in doing that, I literally, I started to see the power, right? And waking up every morning and repeating a mantra, right? And these self-affirmations and these self like empowering things, right? Because we go through so
positive
man.
self-talk and just all those things.
Thought stopping and challenging, like, dog, literally there are so many different powers to even just talk therapy, right? The whole psychotherapy thing where you're talking and expressing and getting it off your chest, right?
Mhm.
And being able to process your thoughts, right? And be
Mhm.
heard, validated, that everybody wants, right? That's what every human
Mhm.
wants. We're social creatures who crave this acceptance, love, and all these other things.
Right.
But it wasn't until I'm like 3-4 sessions in, right? And I'm about to be able to close out, but I couldn't stop, right?
Yeah.
And at the time I had, so this is my second child, right? Because I don't know if I told you, my first child was murdered, right? And so I've been dealing with so much. I was so wound up about that, right? Dealing with trauma surrounding being a failure as a father, being a failure as a person, right? The inability to protect, right? The
Yeah.
inability to legitimately be what has been societally painted as a man, right?
Yeah.
And so,
I read an article about that, but I didn't ask about it because I wasn't sure how comfortable you were talking about it.
bro, just like you were talking about, right? It's therapy, right? And so when
Yeah.
I was just telling you, like that last Monday when we started, right? I was talking to a high school, right?
Mhm.
Expressing it from my point of view, right? And so
Mhm.
it wasn't until I was like, man, I can't let this generational trauma continue into my son, right?
Mhm.
I cannot accept the fact that I am someone else's mistake, or et cetera, right? Like I am not
Mhm.
worthy of love, and I am not worthy of this second opportunity to be the father that I've always wanted to like have. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I had to talk to somebody, which led to literally like me branching out of that experience. Well, adding
Mhm.
two. So I have a counselor, I have a therapist, and I have a
Yeah.
psychiatrist, right?
I remember you
Because
telling you that. So you got a whole team. You got
I
a
got
whole
a team,
team.
damn, because it's necessary, right? Because sometimes
Yeah.
when we, like you were talking about, right, at 28 years old, boom, here comes this world of hurt that you've been literally stuffing in a closet all your life. These
Exactly.
shadow qualities, these experiences that have literally built you to the man you are today, right? And
Exactly.
without being able to look into that in a lighter situation and embrace it, bro, we stay stuck. And so
Right.
I was beating myself up like, yo, man, I'm gonna be just like my father. It's the last thing I wanted to do. Da, da, da. And it
Right.
wasn't until I hit that point, I'm like, dog, you
Right.
are like your father because you are your father. So accept that shit, right? But you
Right.
understand that you don't have to be that, right? And so through therapy, I was able to start connecting those dots and building the awareness to understand that, look, this is my identity, right? I
Mhm.
am my
Mhm.
father. I am my mother. There is no doubt, right? I
Mhm.
have the power, though, to choose which
Mhm.
way I go. Every
Mhm.
morning when I wake up, I count my
So true.
blessings and I decide, right?
Yeah.
Today, I get to be the greatest father, the greatest son, the greatest fucking person and clinician I can be because I have the ability to.
Right. Right. And it's funny when you speak to being in your own head. I think that as athletes, you think about it, we've been competing for 20 years. We're natural competitors. We compete every day. We're talking about practice, in the weight room, on the field. So when we get in our head and start spewing out all of those negative thoughts in our head, we do it more than your normal average person, because your normal average person
Mhm.
doesn't even know how to compete at the level that we do. So when we say, man, nigga, you ain't shit, you ain't never gonna be shit, you
We
fucked this
mean
up, you
it.
fucked that up. Like we're gonna triple time that in our head because we're competitors. We know how to
Fact.
compete. So if we feel like we messed something up or we feel like we underachieved, that pain is going to be triple time because we know how to compete at a higher level than your average person. And that's what I think a lot of people
Facts.
don't really realize. When a former athlete or athlete gets in a bad mental space, it's like triple time what a normal person will, because we're so hard on ourselves. We're such competitors. Like, and
Yes.
that's what a lot of people
Bro,
don't understand.
as you speak to that, right, it made me think of this story in a book I was reading called The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog, right? And it's basically about the effects of trauma on the stress response system of children, et cetera, et cetera. So in one of these stories, this doctor's telling the story about how this young woman overdosed, right, on her own dopamine. Okay, so
Mm.
what happens when we get extremely activated and all this other stuff, we build a tolerance, right? And so now our dopamine receptors are like crazy high impact, and you speak to the level of pressure that athletes endure. You play right in the Farmageddon showdown, right, or whatever, at the Chiefs Stadium or whatever, you know what I'm saying? You play on these platforms and you learn to navigate and control these things, but your stress levels are up here and you learn to function up here. This is that control chaos. But what happens when you don't have it, right? You start trying to create it, right, to get your fix, because now you're basically jonesing for what you need to feel stable and normal.
Right, absolutely.
And you were speaking to that in athletes, right? Now you take that and you mix it with substance abuse, right? And then you mix it with poor mental health status or a mental illness, right? And because it could be genetic, right? You never know. But anyway, you're literally looking at a recipe for disaster, right? You're looking at a recipe for disaster, because again, everything is on a different level, right? Because we're not the average size, we're not the average, all these other things. And I think that needs to be highlighted, right? Because that is a rough world to navigate, right? That chemical imbalance can be deadly. And if you don't have the awareness, how could you ever know? Right. And if you don't start working on lowering those stress levels, then we start looking at some of those generational illnesses, right? Like the high blood pressure in Black men, right? You start looking at all these different things that no one pays attention to, because, he was so healthy, right? That boy was an athlete all his life. But what else was he doing? Right. Exactly. He was overworking himself, trying to navigate in all these realms and trying to survive at the same time without going extinct. And there's just tons of things, right? But you're right? The mental health is the core of every person. And these athletes, right? These young athletes who don't get that knowledge, who have to learn later, right? Especially in a time like now, like think about that, right? Think about you feeling alone and then actually having to be alone in a pandemic. Right. Struggling with your own mental health and being alone with your thoughts.
And you not, and like you said, you not having a skill set to pull from. So you literally just trying to survive every day. Yeah.
Fight or flight all the time, right?
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that the majority of all these high profile athletes and shit come from these tumultuous situations, right? Inner city situations, right? Because that's where all that talent usually be at, right?
Yeah, all the time.
You factor all these different things in, and then you really got a ticking time bomb on your hands, because ain't nobody exposed young junior, like, no, we don't know anything about coping strategies, right?
Exactly.
You didn't know, like, we didn't learn about mindfulness and actual meditation and the power of thought stopping and challenging your negative self-talk, right? We weren't exposed to that, right? And so when shit happens, we get emotionally dysregulated, like you said earlier. We react, we act out, right? Because we don't know anything else except go mode, right? And so here comes the primal instinct, right? The lack of communication, and here comes the natural reaction, right? And so, man, that so it's powerful. It's powerful.
Yeah, it's so true, and I love I love that, and and that's why I spoke to you earlier. Like, sometimes you get forced into it. There she is.
That's my boy right here, young Keon. Say hi.
Hi. yeah, bro. So yeah, I just got one last question, bro. What would you say is Clarence Bumpass's after effect of his entire athletic journey? All the wins, all the losses, all the good decisions, the bad decisions, the injuries, the politics, the racism, the nepotism, everything that we've been through as an athlete. What were some lessons that you learned that you would take and you would ingratiate into your current clients who you're producing therapy to now, and to your daughter, really just as we try to push the culture forward?
My son.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But no, you're good. I think I would say resilience, perseverance, right, and empathy are the main ingredients that I've earned, and patience, right? Patience. Right? And when I speak to patience, I don't mean like the ability to wait. I mean the true measure of patience and waiting, trusting your process, and keeping a good attitude about it. You feel me?
Yeah.
So
resilience and
as
patience, that's powerful.
Boy, and as he grows, right, that's the main thing, right? Like I again want to instill these kind of things in all of these dudes that I work with, right?
Yeah,
From my
yeah.
mentors, from my personal clients to my baby boy and all the people I interact with, because
Mhm.
it restores hope, right? And
Mhm.
it gives hope, and it actually it validates experience, and it builds true character, right? And it
Exactly.
speaks to the totality of a person and not just, again, those one dimensions, right?
Man, yes, yes. I love that patience, resilience. I love it so much. That's so powerful, man. Well, that's actually all I had, bro. I appreciate you carving out the time. I know you a super busy man and father. One thing that I've been trying to pride myself on 2020 was weird. We've never had to walk through a coronavirus pandemic, wear masks, the world has never shut down. I've been trying to pride myself in giving guys flowers while they're still here. We made it 2016. I forgot how many games we played against, but I always felt like you had great energy. You were very intense in your play. But more importantly, I love what you're doing now. So I want to show you that love, all the accolades, everything you've accomplished. I just want to say I'm proud to call you a friend, to call you a brother. I know that we'll continue to cultivate this relationship. And I want to give you that love and show you that love and give you your flowers while we both sit here, bro.
Man, and that's a mutual appreciation, God. Like I appreciate all that love. And I need you to know, right, as a Black man and as a man in general, I'm proud of you, right?
Yes,
And the
sir. I
things that you're
appreciate it.
doing are monumental. And this won't stop,
Appreciate it.
right? We're gonna rock
Oh, it
this
ain't
thing, and you
stopping.
will be the change, right? I'm proud
You
of you,
know
God.
that.
I love you, man. I'm honored to
Yes,
be
sir.
on
Love
it.
you too, bro. Yeah, love you
Be
too, bro.
easy.
Well, take it easy, man, and we'll be in touch.
Okay. Say bye.
All right, bro. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Yeah, have a good night.
You too.
Yeah, guys. So I thought that was a super powerful episode 56. Obviously, Clarence Bumpass, he's a mental health student now, getting his master's in mental health counseling. So, he'll be a future licensed therapist. He already has a few clients right now. Man, we were teammates in 2016 and we both played the same position. I played one defensive end, he played the other. So to see how he's grown, right, over these past 5 years, 5 to 6 years, it's been I thought we had a super powerful conversation. If you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, turn the notifications on, like the video, share the video to any athletes that you know would need some kind of guidance, or maybe just see other athletes be vulnerable with each other, former athletes be vulnerable with each other. If you're listening to this on any audio platform, please like it and leave us a review. As you know, one of the ways we get paid via podcasting is our listenership. So we would really, really appreciate that. And yeah, until the next time, peace. Subscribe to LeBron Daniel TV, but you already knew that, where we dig deep and find our hustle. And every single day, we are better than yesterday. Subscribe.